Hello, my fellow geeks. You are now listening to a brand new edition of the Indian App Geek. My name is Vishal Mehra. This week, we are getting deeper into the business of airline loyalty and status matching. And to do that, we have one of the foremost experts in the world, Mark Ross-Smith. Here's a fun fact. Mark applied for his first status match in 2014 with Cathay Pacific and was denied. Since then, Mark has been on a mission to make status matching easy and fast for travelers. So thank you, Cathay Pacific. Before leading Malaysia Airlines Enrich loyalty program, Mark was a co-founder of an Australian social network as well. And now, Mark is the CEO and co-founder of Loyalty Status Co., the parent company of StatusMatch.com, where he has revolutionized airline loyalty programs by driving over $1 billion in new customer value for major airlines like Emirates, Lufthansa, and Air Canada. Welcome to the Indian App Geek, Mark.
Thank you. Super excited for our chat today. Let's get into it.
How you got into loyalty marketing and what led you into aviation, joining Malaysia Airlines?
So I'm Australian. Used to live in Australia, and in about 2013, I'd sold a company that I had there. It was a social media company, and I was, as part of that business, I was flying around the world a lot. I was just a freaking flyer. I'm like an av geek, like everyone else out there, right? And when I left that business, I thought, what am I going to do next? Right? Because I had no job. Right? I had no job, had the money, and a lot of free time. And I thought, I'd already got top tier status. It was like a super VIP status at Qantas at the time. And I was doing maybe 100, 200 flights a year around the world. And
do you have lifetime status or what?
Yeah, I've got lifetime status with Qantas, and I was it was a platinum 1 tier that they have, which is like a super tier. They just launched it, and I thought, how do I get free flights now? Like that's the ultimate life hack, right? How do you get free flights? Fast forward a little bit, I ended up moving to Hong Kong, and meet a girl, fall in love, have kids, married, all kind of stuff, and she worked for Cathay Pacific. And part of her sales pitch to me, not that she did just sell me or anything, but part of the sales pitch was, if you marry me, you get free flights for life. And I thought, hey, this is it. I figured it out. I've solved life at this point.
You have Qantas across the pond, and you have Cathay this side. You're sorted.
I was so sorted. I thought this is the dream life, right? I've got very cheap flights anywhere I needed to go on Cathay Pacific and all One World, and this is great. I thought, well, I can't really make money out of that, though. It's the downside. So I ended up just going to some industry events, some aviation events, just paid my way. I had nothing to sell. I'd never worked for an airline. I thought I'd just go and check it out and try and learn some of this. There's no university for loyalty. Like there's courses you can do, but there's no real way to do it. So I just started paying my way into some of these events. They were not cheap events. And I realized really fast that as a consumer of the airline product, as a frequent flyer, you are naturally just educated to a certain level. And that certain level is in some ways higher than a lot of airline employees. So I found myself in this position where I knew more about airline loyalty than a lot of airline employees. And then fast forward a few more years later, I started blogging about this online.
And this is which year, roughly?
This is about 2015, 16 at this point.
All right. Okay.
I started blogging on it's still my book, traveldatadaily.com. It's still up. So everything's free.
Saw it. Yeah, I checked it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I started just posting articles on how I thought airlines could make more money out of loyalty.
And this is all you self-education.
Yeah. This is stuff that I'd learned in my past business in the telco industry.
Yeah.
And actually being a frequent flyer. And I thought, there's a bit of marriage. I just see, and being an entrepreneur as well, right? You just see opportunity everywhere. It's like, why the heck aren't airlines doing this and this? And what if they did this and this, they could, you just see the money out there. Like, what the heck are these guys thinking? And, fast forward a little bit, I ended up being asked if I wanted to run loyalty at Malaysia Airlines. There was no interview process. I was literally just asked, do you want the job? I went in for about a 15-minute kind of sit down conversation with HR and the chief commercial officer at the time. And the conversation ended with, sounds great. How much do you want? When can you start?
Wow.
And it was a bunch of serendipitous moments that kind of led up to that. So it was very fortunate, but ultimately they were looking for someone that, knew how to run a business and basically I ran loyalty like a startup would, very, very fast moving, as fast as you can in an airline. And ultimately just solving my own problems. I'm a freaking flyer. If I solve my problems as a freaking flyer, I'm solving it for millions of other people as well. Right. So that's kind of how I got into the game. And then, obviously in airline loyalty since then, after I left Malaysia Airlines, there's this thing called COVID that came along that destroyed the world. And, I thought at that point, the airline industry wasn't looking that great. And I thought, how do I help the industry that's helped me so much in all these years? And that's when I started a business that I'm in now, which is all around, loyalty products for airlines and hotels.
You just mentioned how the business that you loved so much, aviation, was in dire straits during the pandemic. Was that the only inspiration to start StatusMatch?
Funny story, actually. I haven't talked about this online yet. I actually tried to buy StatusMatch.com in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, as in the domain name. So no one
Yeah,
was
sure.
really using it for anything. It was just one of those squatters,
So travel data daily might have been statusmatch.com. Is that it?
Who knows, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I tried buying the domain, and they wanted $100,000 for it. Well, I didn't really have that. A domain name, like you didn't get anything else. It's just the name, right? But it's an industry. StatusMatch is an industry name. Everyone knows what it is. So it is worth something. Is it worth 100,000? No. Is it now? A lot more than that, obviously. I tried buying it back then, and I thought I don't really have the experience to make it work. And that was part of my driver. And how do I get the experience, right? Because I've got, on one hand, like probably a lot of people listening as well, like I've got the experience of being a frequent flyer. I get that. Like I've done the kind of the hard yards. I've done the daily commutes, the turnarounds, you fly out on a Monday, back on a Friday night on a 7 p.m. flight, and the flight's full. You're in the middle seat, the screaming babies next to you. Everything goes wrong. There's like a rite of passage to be a real frequent flyer, and I feel I've done that many times. And so you kind of check the box, and then it's like, what's next, right? How do I fix those problems? Because like I said, if I fix it for me, I fix it for everyone else. Because if you go on forums and read in blogs and stuff, frequent flyers more or less have the same kind of issues all around the world. Doesn't really matter what country you're in. It's the same kind of things. There's delays, there's weathers, your seat gets changed, you're not getting the perks, where's my miles? My points miles, terrible redemption rates. Basically, how do I get more? How do I get the airline to recognize me for the value that I believe that I'm bringing to that airline? So there's all these sort of things combined, and you know what it's like. At the end of the day, you've either got the airline bug or you don't, and there was a little bit of that was firing inside of me, in addition to all these other things. And so it was these series of things that all led to these great moments.
So now you have four major products. You have StatusMatch, Get Status, Status Booster, and Status Lift. How many of these are available for Indian customers right now, Mark?
It's mostly StatusMatch. Our
Okay.
products, StatusMatch is got an interesting. There's a B2C angle and there's a B2B angle. So the B2C angle is what everyone kind of sees. So if you go to statusmatch.com now, that's what you see. As a consumer, you register, it's free. You can sort of click around and see some things that are available to you. The other products we have they're more like, at the end of the day, our customer actually is the airline, right? So, we need the airlines or hotels or cruise lines. We need them on board to be able to offer these things. And so once we get, contracts and, APIs and all this kind of stuff in place, then we put in place marketing plans and all sorts of stuff with the brands to help them promote these things to everyone in the world. So it's really, StatusMatch is about high value customer acquisition for airlines and hotels. And everything is about status, right? So you need to have like your minimum, your silver, your gold kind of status to even be able to use this product. And this does limit a lot of people that just don't have it. Like they might be interested, like they might fly a lot, but they just don't have the silver, the gold yet. And this is a bit intentional for airlines, because if you've got status, you're in the top 5% of commercial travelers globally already today. So it is the sort of, the top of the top is the best kind of customers. These people spend more, they fly more frequently. They tend to have the co-brand credit card with the airline. We call it like they're spending the right type of money. So they're typically not on the absolute dirt cheap fare, like the cheapest of the cheap they can get, right? They're typically, especially business travelers, they're booking the flights a week, maybe 2 weeks in advance. Typically, the booking window is a lot less than a leisure traveler. Like if you think like the last holiday that you booked somewhere, right, internationally, right? Yeah. Probably like me, I book 3 or 4 months in advance at least.
Same here. I'm already booked for May. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Whereas, and you're getting a better deal because of that, right? It typically just costs less because you can plan a bit further ahead. Whereas business travel, it's like, well, I need to go to wherever tomorrow, and it just costs more. That's just how life is, yeah? Because it costs more, you're spending more, you're earning more points, you're getting more status tier points or what, out of it as well. And so that's hence the top 5% spending.
There are two questions immediately in my mind based on what you just said. There's been tons of activity in the Indian credit card space over the last 2-3 years. Many travel-based credit cards have gained enormous popularity, and almost every major bank is coming out with a product to cater to that demand. Some even have multiple products. Are you planning to diversify in the Indian market beyond just the StatusMatch product?
Yeah, we're talking to a bunch of airlines about this right now. You're right. There's a significant overlap. Like imagine a Venn diagram, frequent flyers, and then credit cards, right? It's the co-brand credit cards. Huge overlap. This is really interesting. I read this article recently. It was a Wall Street Journal. It said that Delta Airlines is a bank masquerading as an airline, and you kind of see, if you search around, you see a bit of this where people are saying, well, they're not really airlines anymore. They're marketing companies, or they're banks that just happen to fly metal tubes through the sky. And so I think there, especially in North America, there is tremendous value in these bank financial services products. We're seeing this, sort of explode in other markets around the world where the economics make sense for it. India is no exception. I think, there's more people being able to get more access to cards and things like that. And we're really seeing people take advantage of these things. I think we're going to see more of it, especially, was it a year or two ago, Air India Flying Returns just revamped their whole program. I think
last year, yeah, Maharaja Club.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's right. I think they see the value of this stuff. They look around the rest of the world and they go, you know what, if it's good enough for the top 5 airlines in the world, it's good enough over here as well.
Absolutely. And not just the top 5 airlines globally. I can tell you there's a fantastic example right here in India. This is November 2013. I think 24% of Jet Airways is sold to Etihad. And maybe 3 months later or so, Jet Privilege, its loyalty program, I think slightly above 50% stake was sold to Etihad. Everybody saw how Naresh Goyal was able to extract such a high value from his loyalty program. And it's amazing now when you hear about how for so many major airlines globally, most recently for the 3 major US airlines, their loyalty program makes much more money than those aircraft actually flying. It's definitely much more than just ancillary revenue now. The other point you had hit on earlier was that if I spend more, I'll get more points, right? Now, this is a trend seen across the world. You had mentioned to me yesterday also on our call about BA's shift, British Airways shift to a revenue based program. They got tons of backlash, some backtracking has happened, but many feel serious damage is already done. I'm sure you got some new business from BA elite tiers matching on other airlines as well. But my question in all of this basically is, what trends or insights are you seeing globally that Indian carriers might look to adopt locally?
Can I just quickly go back on this jet privilege / intermiles thing quickly?
Sure.
I thought, during 2020, 2021, when a lot of airlines around the world, especially the North American, they were using their loyalty program as leverage to raise funds, right? They were securing loans against the loyalty program worth a lot more than the airline. I thought at the time, I think they'd rebranded into miles already at that point. I thought we would see, I made this prediction in 2021 that we'd see the world's first reverse version of this, where we'd see a loyalty program buy or start an airline to support their valuation. I was determined. I thought this is gonna happen. India is gonna surprise the world with this. This is gonna be the new model. I was like, this is totally gonna happen.
What an interesting
Obviously,
thought.
it didn't, but I'd spoke to some people that were very familiar with this, and they said it almost happened. It was so close to happening, and I so wish this would be cool, because if this happened, imagine that a loyalty program starts an airline to support their own valuation, to keep their value of their company up, right? This would blow the minds of economists globally, right? Like, you think when people talk about airlines, they're thinking like pilots and runways and crew and fuel and cask and all these kind of metrics,
And we talk about all of that every week, by the way.
It's the same thing over and over and over and over, right? In a good way, that when airlines get this model right for them, it's a beautiful business. Yeah. The world of loyalty and marketing and airline is exactly the opposite. It's like, on the airline side, it's very risk adverse, right? You don't want to take risks. It's long-term planning, there's fuel hedging, all this kind of stuff, right? On the loyalty side of it, it's a marketing company. You want to take risks. It's like the opposite kind of people that you want in these businesses. You want risks. You want the creativity. You want them going out there trying new things to get people to engage with the brand. So I know we're way off track now. I even forgot what your question was.
No, I was asking you about what kind of trends you're seeing and insights you're seeing globally that Indian carriers might adopt locally.
Oh yeah, we were talking about the BA thing. Yeah, we've seen. I think India's kind of adopted this already, but we saw the BA trend moving to status based on how much you're spending. Iberia as well, just this week as well, moved to that. There's definitely airlines want to move to this, and this is really because the economists and the airlines are kind of winning the battle, right? If you spend X $1,000, that's what you should be spending to get the gold status, right? That's a very linear, very easy thing to understand. What they're not getting, and this is what the economist types of the world fail to get, is that status in airline is totally irrational. It's entirely emotional on a lot of people towards their status, right? Like, you imagine if you were meeting CEO, you met Campbell today, CEO of Air India, the first thing most people will say is, "Hi, I'm Vishal. I'm a gold member," right? No one says, "Oh, I've got 57,000 points in my account." No one says it's either I'm a loyal for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Or I'm a gold member. It's one of these two things. People are really attached to their status. It's an emotional bond. So it's really, really emotional. And when you go trying to make it all transactional, to say, oh, you need to spend 5,000 to keep it, there's a disconnect there between the emotional part of it and then the fact that in your face, it's like, I have to spend this to get there, versus a distance-based chart, for example, where there's a bit of fun and games. There's a bit of, you can game it a little bit. You know, I can, well, if I do this extra flight to Chicago, but I go on Star Lines through Frankfurt or something, like I can get a
Mileage
few
runs
more
used to be a
points.
actual thing back in the day, right? People used to do mileage runs.
Exactly. And mileage runs are gone in the same way when it's all based on how much you spend, because it's like, well, I don't need to try and game it. I can't justify a trip to Germany anymore. Instead, you know, I'll just spend the extra money and just go to Colombo for the weekend or whatever, right? It's like it's just not as interesting. It kills off a lot of the fun, kills off a lot of the sort of the magic allure around the program. And so I think I worry that airlines that move towards this in a hard way are kind of self-destructing loyalty in some ways. You take away the magic of these things, and then, you know, what's left? The last thing you want is to flying to actually feel like you're on a terrible bus ride, right? There's still something magical there. You're flying through the air, you know, cool things are happening. You can meet people. It's fun. People are excited. It's the romance is still there to a degree. Let's not kill it off, right? By saying you need to spend this to keep, you know.
Yeah, but like you said, the economists are winning, and you know all airlines have to present, at least those which are listed have to present their quarterly results. So there's that too. But any other trends that you're seeing, Mark, that you can tell us in the loyalty space, airline loyalty space?
We're seeing a small rise in subscription products. I think, you know, airlines are, you know, they view subscription as sustainable revenue. They see it as something they can rely on. And this is a subscription both in loyalty. So I mean, we actually run some subscription products in loyalty around status, where you can basically pay a fee and you can get some accelerators around that, but also subscriptions on just flights, right? So you saw, there's a 3-4 months ago, Wizz Air, you know, launched their, you know, basically all you can fly type passes. Seen a few airlines run these. These are pretty interesting. These are typically either monthly, quarterly, or yearly fees you pay, and you get, it's either unlimited flights in that time or a certain bunch.
The
We work
American
with one.
MCCs, Spirit, Frontier, Southwest, they're known for all this, right?
Yeah, we do a lot with Frontier Airlines. They run a
Yeah.
Go Wild pass, which is it's like I think it's based on a quarter. You pay a fee over 3 or 4 months, you get unlimited. I think you pay like 1 cent per flight or something. Like you have to have a fee. It's a cent, a penny, right? Very cheap. It's a very interesting product because they kind of know what their costs are going to look like as an airline, right? They know there's a bunch of fixed costs there. They know that this many planes are going to fly. It's about this cost, staffing that, and it's like, how can they bring some of that forward? I'd heard it was like, I don't know if you're familiar with like how skiing works and like these ski parks, right? You know, in the winter time, it's you know, they make a lot of money, but in summer, like all the snow melts away, right? And no one's skiing, right, in summer. So what they do is at the end of the season in winter, they pre-sell the passes for next year. And they say, well, if you buy a pass now for next year for however much, what it does, and they give you a discount, right? A bunch of people, they lock in the rates now. They get this huge influx of cash at the end of the season. And the idea is that lasts them until the snow
Yeah.
comes back
The
again.
cruise industry does that too. By the end of every cruise, they give you an offer for the next year.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
why aren't airlines doing this? So why airlines? My big thing. Why are airlines thinking more like tech companies? They think more like we fly planes around in the sky. Nothing wrong with that. But you know, as soon as you book that ticket and you take the flight, like it's all over. As soon as you get off the plane, it's like the whole thing is ended, right? There's no like, how was it? You know, we want you back. Like, book a ticket in the next 14 days for your next flight in the next 6 months, and we'll give you free seat selection, free bags, free, I don't know, free lounge access, something like lock the people in for the next thing. This is more or less what the co-brand credit cards do with banks. It's the idea is that, you know, if you've got a physical card, you're looking at the logo every day when you tap somewhere to pay for something, and you know, it kind of keeps the brand top of mind. That's more or less part of the psyche around that. But I think airlines could do a lot better job at retailing, especially post-flight. You know, trying to get you back, trying to get you to do the next thing, because as long as you've had a pretty good experience, like you're likely to book something again. So why not get you while you're hot before you go home and look at your bank statement, look at your credit card, and you're like, geez, I can't believe I spent that much on the holiday. get you before you look at that, right? Because after you've gone home and your girlfriend, wife, whatever goes, we spent how much on this trip? Like, that's the last thing you need, right? To lock them in before that happens.
How big is your business with Indian flyers? Which airline programs are you seeing most traction for?
There's two dynamics here. There's people based in India that are doing status matches elsewhere. So, you know, they're doing a match with, you know, because these are people that are generally long haul international travel. So a lot of people that go to Europe or US quite a lot. We're definitely seeing a rise in that. We ran a promotion with Star Alliance near the end of last year when SAS left Star Alliance. They joined SkyTeam, and Star Alliance at the time decided, as an alliance, they wanted the option for some of their member airlines to participate, to status match people that had SAS status into one of the other airlines. So Air India participated in part of that. I think it was 11 airlines, Star Alliance airlines, that were matching there. And we saw some really, really interesting uptake. You know, we saw people basically had an option. If they had SAS Eurobonus status, it's like they had an option of like 11 different airlines. Like, which one do I want to start? They can only choose one. Yeah. Which one do I want status with? And so they could have chosen Air Canada, Thai, South African Airways, and then you got Air India in there as well, right? And the number of people choosing Air India was really, really high. Really, really, it surprised me as well. I didn't know there was that much traffic flowing.
Is it possible to share numbers, or that's tricky?
Let's just say they punched well above their weight.
All right. How come you haven't onboarded Maharaja Club yet then?
Well, if they're listening, then they obviously contact me. Well, every airline has their own dynamic going on, right? They've all got their own strategy, their own agenda. You know, we can't really dictate how that works for them. Sometimes it's just, you know, that they know exist, being there at the right time, ready to support whatever they're looking to do. You know, some airlines, a lot of our products are about customer acquisition and then basically making money out of those customers in a way that actually provides value. So, you know, providing them accelerators or ways to keep their status. You know, if you've just lost your gold status, we have ways that you can sort of get it back easily, and, you know, there's fees involved in that. So everything's about building value within the loyalty ecosystem. Some airlines do their own thing. They can do this internally. Takes a lot of effort, is very expensive, wouldn't recommend it. But every airline is kind of on their own journey with this. Some are less worried about just making as much money as you can. Putting my entrepreneur hat on, you know, I like making money. I think it's a great thing. I don't understand why airlines don't want to do more of it.
Let's talk a bit more about that. So how can they increase their ancillary revenues and margins working with you? How does it work?
I'll give you a bit of context here. Airlines, when you think ancillary, generally you're selling seat selection, checked-in bag fees, insurance products, maybe lounge access, these kinds of things. People that have status, so silver, gold, platinum type levels, they're not paying for these things because they're included in the status, and they wouldn't pay for them. So what it means is you've got your best frequent flyers, the people that spend the most, the people that probably have the most money, and airlines haven't got anything to sell them, or they're trying to sell you stuff that you can already get. For example, I had actually it was United Airlines recently tried to sell me lounge access as part of my ticket, but I get it for free with my status. Like, you're trying to sell me something for $75 that I already get for free anyway. Like, guys, come on, you can do better than this. My point here is they're really good at selling stuff to people that don't have status, and they make a lot of money of ancillaries there. What airlines generally, globally, including India, not so good at selling ancillaries to people that have the status, not so good people that are frequent flyers. They typically want different things. And so that's where we come in. We sell stuff around status. So we'll say, do you want double tier miles on this flight? Pay an extra X dollars for this flight, right? This has multiple benefits for the airline. People are much more likely to book the ticket. They can accelerate their way to status when they have the status. They tend to be very brand loyal. They tend to not shop around. They're not so fussed about price at that point. That's one of them. People that are losing status or about to lose status, we've got two different products around that. Basically paying to keep your status in different ways. And all these, to your point, we do have these 4 products, and each of those 4 we classify as like loyalty ancillary revenue. And it's just like a seat or a bag fee. It's high margin revenue for the airline. And it's more importantly, it's the people that are buying these things are people with status. They're the people that actually have the most money. The people that maybe their company is paying for the trip. The people that have a good job. They see the value in these products. Whereas if you fly once a year, you're probably not going to buy one of these things because you won't see the value. But if you're flying 10, 20, 30, 50 times a year, you'll see it and go, I'd be silly not to buy this thing because it's going to add so much value to my. And then what happens is you pay the extra 50 bucks, whatever it is. And then you're like, wow, I like to see it gets exciting again. We talked about, the magic of flying sort of coming out of it. We're bringing it back in with these things. The whole ethos of our business is we're sort of helping airlines unlock what we call the next $100 billion in global ancillary revenue through loyalty in ways that just haven't been unlocked before.
Mark, which airline or which partner has seen the most success working with you in terms of business? Can you share some numbers?
This is like saying which is my favorite child. Like,
Come on.
they're all.
There's
all
always
favorite.
one. There's always one.
Don't tell my wife that. Yeah. I point to our first ever client that we had with Frontier Airlines. It's a ultra low cost in the USA. The economics of their business versus, say, someone like Lufthansa who we work with, they're vastly different. And so, Frontier was our first airline. They believed in what we're doing. Very, very grateful for them and them entrusting us so early on in our business. They've done phenomenally well out of the products we'll launch with them. So there's a bit of a sweet spot in my heart just because it was the first client. And when it's your first client, you put more effort into it. Because it's like I have to make this work, right? It's kind of like your first girlfriend or first boyfriend. You're like I'm gonna make this work, because you kind of got more to lose at that point. So there is a sweet spot for their. We've tested a bunch of new things with them over the years, and they've done really, really well out of it. They got tons of media traction they never would have got without some of this stuff. Made a lot of money as well, a lot of new customers, and I think what it's done is expose people to their brand in a way that wouldn't be possible any other way. Not everyone is a big fan of ultra low cost carriers. This sort of opened people's eyes, and they tried it and they go, you know what? This is pretty much the same as flying American Airlines. This is not that bad. I'll try it again and again and again and again. And so it's effectively brand introduction that they get. They basically got paid to acquire customers. This is like blows your mind, right? Who gets paid to acquire a customer?
We've been talking about status throughout the show. If everyone has status, what does that mean for the airline, right? What does that mean as far as impact on lounges is concerned? What does that mean for alliance partners?
Generally, it's about 5% of the loyalty members will have status. So everyone is never going to have status. And this is important. If everyone does have status, to your point, then no one really has it. but it'll never get to that point. And there's no airline that has got to that point. So I'm not too concerned that airlines are just suddenly gonna, you're gonna open up the news tomorrow and it says every Indian gets free gold star. Like this, I mean, can you imagine how much money they'd make? But anyway, there'd be massive cost implications for them because suddenly everyone has access to a lounge. They can't possibly do that. But also it's their partners, right? So if you got lounge access in Air India, you've also got it through Star Alliance as well, right? So you got access to the Singapore Airlines staff, to the Thai Airways, all this kind of stuff. So there's cost impacts on their partners, and it would be unfair to their partners because Singapore Airlines doesn't want a line of 300 people trying to get into the lounge. It looks bad on them as well. So maintaining some exclusivity around the tiers is important for airlines as well, which is why we see airlines like British Airways putting some barriers in place to make it a little bit harder to try and dare I say, maybe they don't want so many these top folks to make so the people that do have it have a slightly better experience.
Got you. Listen, Mark, there are a few more questions I have about the business overall and your business. Can we continue this chat next week, please?
I'll be here next week, 100%.
Fresh and exciting thinking by Mark. So much new stuff for me to absorb. And frankly, I can't wait to continue this next week. I think I want to talk to him about airline loyalty programs we have in India, about hotels, and maybe more about operating in the Indian market. But for this week, this is it, folks. Rate the show on your app. Give us feedback. I would appreciate it very much. Mark is at DRDOOT, Dr. Doot on X, and I am at Vishal1 Mehra. With that, I wish you well and happy flying, my friends.